Hey guys, Dark Humility here. You can always catch me at twitch.tv/Dark Humility for 6 to 7 days a week of Diablo 2 action. PD2, D2R, LOD, you name it, we do it all, and we do all the builds. Mostly doing hardcore these days. I've been doing hardcore PD2 Season 4 here, and today we have a second build guide for you guys, which is a combined build guide for both Ubers and my favorite build of Season 4, but also the quintessential build of Season 4, the Zeal Barbarian. Yes, you heard that right. If you haven't played PD2 before, this might be pretty surprising to you, but a Zeal Barbarian does exist in Season 4. We'll explain, of course, how that works, especially when we go over the gear. But yeah, really fun build, very safe and very strong. The reason why Zeal works so well in a Barbarian is because he has a lot of passives. You can do Zeal on a lot of characters in Season 4. He has a lot of high damage increasing, survivability increasing passives. So it's all amazing stuff. Remember, of course, to check out our other build guides, though, on our YouTube channel here. Our PD2 guides from previous seasons, most of them are still relevant. Our D2R guides on here as well, and on Maxroll, d2.maxroll.gg. And let's get into it. The build guide made possible by a new runeword in Season 4. This is one of the coolest things. This is also the first thing I tested in beta because of some item changes they made in Season 4. It's just great stuff. It's an awesome build. He destroys the Ubers. He can key farm. He can destroy the mini Ubers, and we're about to do it all. First, though, we're going to go over the stats, then the skills, and the Mercenary Gear, and then our gear, and then, of course, we're going to go into how to farm the keys and get into the other stuff as well. This is an updated guide for Ubers as well, beyond what we've done in Season 3 and Season 2. They make the Ubers harder every time. Of course, Season 3, they made them significantly harder by trapping you in there, which you are trapped in there again. I think I did a Jabazon guide from last season where I did the Ubers as well. But we'll do it all because this character really is capable of doing it all. He's a beast. Even when the mercenary dies, he can hold his own. Let's get into it. So, we've got here level 91 Barbarian. Truth is, though, you only need enough strength to wear your gear. Make sure you can wear all your swaps, though. The swaps will be very important for surviving against various Uber bosses. Very good stuff. You only need enough strength to wear your gear. The Exile that we are wearing requires 209 strength, which also gives us a lot of bonus damage, so it also adds to our damage. So strength is never going to be a bad thing on this build. And then we get enough dexterity to get maximum block. This might be familiar from the Zeal Paladin. Unfortunately, though, unlike with the Zeal Paladin, we do not have the luxury of Holy Shield, so we have to put a lot more points into dexterity. But this is also not so much of a bad thing because it gives us a ton of attack rating, which is very useful for killing the Ubers. One thing you might notice here, though, is we have like 30,000 defense. Yeah, if you don't know how, we'll get into that. I'll show the gear. Yeah, that's actually... this character can be very hard to hit, which makes him extremely tanky, especially with all of his survivability and damage passives once again. Really cool stuff. Crazy stuff. Alright, of course, we then put the rest of the points into Vitality, and you don't really need energy on any bar build in existence, so whatever's provided by the gear, just make sure you get Leech somewhere. And then you can see we have stacked res, so we have res beyond the cap, so we have overcapped res. That is from a lot of our gear as well. It's going to be very useful to have overcapped res for the Ubers because they do a ton of damage. Of course, this Barb is also on hardcore, so we only get one chance every time we do this. If we ever die, we just lose the character. We don't just lose the organs, so... or the Pandemonium Talisman. It'd be nuts. Anyway, we also stack our res very high. We're going to be stacking our res even higher when we go to fight the big Ubers because of Mephisto's Conviction Aura and Bale's Lower Resist. So we're definitely going to want some extra res. Right now, though, they're pretty stacked already, which is, you know, decent for conviction just for normal fighting. It's just good to have your res stacked in hardcore in general. Also have 24% damage reduction. On this build, it can be a little challenging to get damage reduction. If you also want to get decent damage, this is where I think maybe they could add some damage reduction potentially to Ferocity, maybe to have a little more survivability on this build, but you know, it does make it a bit riskier. 24% isn't a whole lot on hardcore, but we have so much defense we don't get hit that often, and we also have max block, so that's where a lot of our survivability comes from. Iron Skin in one of our items is giving us DR, and one of these items we don't even use for 2 of the Ubers, so our damage reduction is insanely high. But I'd recommend to get it as high as possible. You can also get like PDR and boots and whatnot, and even additional PDR on your belt. So there are ways to get more physical damage reduction still. You can go even more defensive on your armor and get more as well, but we'll get into that when we get to the gear. Let's see here. So we got a lot of hit recovery, so I recommend hitting at least 48 hit recovery on this build so that when you take a lot of damage, which you often will from the Ubers, you're not recoiling a lot and you're able to get right back into attacking. 48 is minimum, but with my current gear, I'm actually able to get it to 86, mostly due to corruptions and otherwise. However, when I fight the big Ubers, I'm back down to 48 because I'm not using Dungos most of the time, so it just kind of depends. Let's see here. Yeah, damage and attack rating, of course, are going to be very important stats. You're going to want as much as possible. But when it comes to attack speed, if you have at least level 9 Fanaticism on your Mercenary Beast and you have 75 attack speed on your gear, you're hitting the max breakpoint. With a Berserker Axe, it does depend on your weapon, though. So different weapons will require different breakpoints. We're also hitting, I think, 2 breakpoints behind max, even without the Fanaticism on our Mercenary. So we're still attacking very fast with Zeal. It's going to be very important to have attack speed on this character, especially if the Mercenary dies, because unlike its typical Zealer, we don't have Fanaticism if the Mercenary dies. And Zeal definitely is a very attack speed dependent skill, so make sure to have a lot of that. And of course, you know, any faster unlock or any other stats you can get, of course, are going to be nice for melee. You want at least 75% Deadly Strike in Season 4 PD2, or on Season 4. Why? Because they capped it at 75%, and they also capped it at 50% additional damage instead of 100% additional damage, or times 2. It's now times 1.5. So Deadly Strike is not as important as it once was, but it's still very important. Very important stat. It's going to give you a ton of extra damage. So having 75% minimum is what you want. It is the maximum, so that extra Deadly Strike is doing nothing, but that's okay. Also, some source of Crushing Blow will be very useful for gunning those Ubers down to, I believe it is 65%, where you can Crushing Blow no longer applies in PD2, so once you get them to 65% of their maximum health, Crushing Blow no longer works, but you do want some decent source of Crushing Blow in your gear if possible, maybe even higher than this if you want to train them down a bit faster. And then, of course, Open Wounds is very useful for the mini Ubers, and it's just useful for, you know, any source of prevention of healing. And then you want at least one source of Mana Leech and as much Life Leech as you can possibly get, which will key off of your damage. And the more damage you have, the more Life Leech you have, the more life you're healing up, and then you don't have to use as many potions in the Uber fight or otherwise. So that's going to be very important stuff. Magic Find, not super important when this build is mostly focused on fighting Ubers. If you were doing mapping, though, that would be more important for sure. There are ways to retool this build to make it a more effective mapper. This build, though, is currently keyed towards the Ubers. Zeal Barbarian would be a pretty poor choice against Rathma, though, for various reasons. Not being able to get your res high up enough, your damage high enough. Same thing for Declone, not the greatest choice for Declone. You're not going to even have Fanaticism against Declone, unlike the typical Zealer. But against the standard Ubers, this build is a mega tank, and he hits really hard. and you can kill them very fast with really high level battle cry and other passives, as I mentioned before. So against the standard Ubers, this build's incredible, and will of course help you farm those declo materials with like black soul stones in season 4 as well, and everything else. All right, so went over some basics here. And some stats. Let's go over the skills and kind of talk about like how this works. So skills on a Zeal Barbarian. You're not really going to want to invest much into the combat tree because your main skill is Zeal, which is not even on here. I put 1 into Leap just to have more mobility. You don't even need this for the big Ubers at all, but it does help to traverse different distances from mini Ubers and to jump over stuff. Very useful. And of course Frenzy also to move around. This is going to be really nice to have on your swap. You can't use it on your main hand where you only have a single one-handed weapon or a two-handed weapon that's used as a one-hand weapon, but you have to have 2 weapons for this. You have 2 weapons, which we have on swap. We can boost our movement speed, which will be especially useful for key farming, and of course for moving around when we're doing mini Uber farming. It can also boost your attack speed if you lose your mercenary in the big Uber fights as well, so there are ways to get your attack speed back to max, at least temporarily. So Frenzy, just nice to have 1 point in there just to rebuff yourself. It's good stuff. Now let's talk about the more important trees on this full here. Is Zeal Barb, you're going to want all the passives. So any passive that gives you damage or defensive power is usually what you're going for on a Zeal Barbarian. So this is maxing General Mastery. I mean, we're using an axe, which is fine, and it's going to give us bonus critical strike. It's going to give us a attack rating and damage. It's all stuff we need a lot of, so we're going to max it out no matter what. We want 1 point to increase speed for sure. And then the rest of these, it kind of depends. Like if you have more DR, you might not need max Iron Skin, but because I don't have a lot of DR in my gear, I feel like maxing Iron Skin is really smart, especially in hardcore where you can't die at all, or you won't lose your characters. So I definitely recommend maxing this on hardcore 100%. Combat reflexes is the most effective means of increasing your own life. Battle orders is better in a group because it gives everyone life, but this gives yourself more life. So if you're soloing the Ubers of this character, you're definitely going to want to go at some points in here. It also helps your hit recovery. I have 88 hit recovery with points into combat reflexes in the rest of my gear, which is getting us to the 86 breakpoint in most normal play. So that is it's good stuff just to get some points into here depending on what you're trying to do. Good idea. Natural res also can help shore up some resistance deficiencies. This does tend to be pretty effective, up to 64 all res, so just depending on what you need in there. And then this is the real meat of it right here. So you get most of your damage from General Mastery, Zeal itself, the auras on your Mercenary, and of course, maxing out Battle Command, which just straight up gives you more damage, just 100% more damage. It also gives 3 all skills, which will also help all of our passives, including Battle Cry. So Battle Cry, we can get it pretty absurdly high with our weapons here, which we'll go over in the gear. Battle Cry is insane. So this is where this character has a bit of an advantage over the standard Zealer. Not only does he have all these passes, but if you can keep his Mercenary alive, this negative physical damage reduction is absurd. It's negative 34. If you're lucky, you can maybe get it to like negative 15 on a standard Zealer using CTA. That's a lot of negative res, and that's the most important stat, especially with like CB and Deadly Strike nerfed in this mod. That negative physical res stat on your gear and on your Battle Cry are going to be the most important thing for destroying the Ubers that have a lot of physical res. So this is going to increase our damage massively, and casting it on our swap where we have a lot of Word Plus skills, it's going to be really effective. And then of course, I would definitely recommend, especially after trying it recently, that you have at least 1 point to Grimoire. This is another amazing passive that if you can kill any monster near the Ubers you're killing, you can increase your damage by 1k or even higher with just 1 point into it, into some extra plus skills on your swap. The Warcry skills on swap once again. You can cast it on your swap. And you could even max it out if you don't need all these defensive skills. So you could even get more damage on this character. Definitely possible, especially on softcore where the stakes aren't quite as high. You could definitely go for a max Grimward. Grimward's looking pretty good this season. It's got really pretty strong radius. Gives you a lot of damage to your whole party or even just yourself. It's pretty solid stuff, so it's going to be good for getting your damage there. Yeah, we're definitely going to be smacking some stuff in a moment here. We're making the guide, so I'm going over everything, and then we're going to start killing stuff in a moment here. No problem. If you just got in here, what's up, Mr. Kanev? Yeah, exclamation S4HC Zeal Barb. If you guys want to check out the planner right now, you can check out all the details yourself. We'll have that in the description below and the first pinned comment, in addition to the timestamps. So make sure to check that out. No problem. All right. Anyway, all right, and that's pretty much it. That is pretty much what you want to do on this character. If I do anything with any spare points, if I level up beyond this, I'm definitely going either more survivability, so more points into combat reflexes, or more points into Grimward. Since this isn't too much of a magic find build, or I'm not farming Travancore with it, I don't worry about find item. And the rest of these skills, I mean, we're going to be using Shout and Battle Orders to buff ourselves on our Warcry swap as well, but they are not the priorities over these other skills. These other skills will definitely give you more bang for their buck. But 1 point into them will definitely give you a significant additional survivability otherwise. You can also use Howl if you want, but with a build this tanky, you probably don't even need to worry about that, so that's no big deal. Okay, that's the skills. All right, Mercenary. So Mercenary, in my opinion, there's really only one choice on this character, which is the Act 5 Mercenary. You want a high-level Might Aura for sure. You want as high levels of auras as possible. And a mercenary that is likely to survive the big Ubers in addition to other Ubers. The other mercenaries have a bit more of a problem with this. You could go an Act 2 mercenary and go like Pride Might using Templars and Pride, but I wouldn't recommend it. It would give you more damage reduction, but then you wouldn't have the attack speed afforded by Fanaticism to get that max frame zeal. So, to me, this is just the approach you want to do on this character. You get him for his high base level Might Aura, and then of course you slap on a beast. It's so much easier to hit your breakpoints if you hit at least a 9 Fanaticism beast. This rolls 8 to 10, so there's a 1 1/3 chance you kind of get mildly screwed over on your breakpoints. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, 8 would, from the breakpoint calculators I have seen, 8 might be trouble. So if you can, try to get at least a 9 or a 10. But obviously RNG has to be in your favor. Otherwise, you might have to find another source of attack speed somewhere on your build just to make up for that loss. At least 1 or 2% more attack speed somewhere, which is nothing. But that could require a whole nother item. But or it could require a better corruption. But we'll have to get it one way or another. All right. Next up, the rest of the build's basically life leech, attack speed, damage reduction, cannot be frozen, all resistances, life. Yeah. Basically, that's the rest of the build. FHR maybe. That's it. There are definitely better items you could have here, like a really sick Gore Riders would probably be better here. Just to have him add to your damage on top of it. Could also get more attack speed corruptions to increase his attack speed, but he has good attack speed because he has Fanaticism, so he's pretty solid there. He could wear Crown of Ages to increase his damage reduction even more. That's all going to be good stuff. You don't need Templars in this character because it doesn't add to his Might Aura. It will do nothing because his Might Aura is stronger, so override it. It's not how it works, so don't use the Templars on an Act 5 Mercenary. Make sure to just use the Fortitude. Fortitude's probably going to give you the most damage anyway. And, or any other, like Shaft Stop with, 3 jewels. There's definitely ways to make him, way tankier. You could go, G-Face as well. There's a lot of things you can do to make him even stronger. I decided to go for the basic survivability approach, maybe not even using the very best items, but he survives pretty well despite that, so he does a pretty good job. Alright, that's pretty much it for the Mercenary. So let's go over the gear. So this is the fun part. This is the fun part! This is the fun part in terms of going over the build. So, this build has a few different swap outs and whatnot, just to make sure we have the res for the final Ubers and whatnot. But, the weapon, there's a lot of choices. You're going to want a one-handed weapon, though, pretty much no matter what. And there's a decent amount of choices. You can go like F Grandfather with like multiple sockets, would be pretty darn strong. You go Death. The problem with Death, though, is Death has received a lot of nerfs, and Death also has no attack speed, which would mean you need a lot of attack speed elsewhere to make up for it. So you need some probably like crazy armor with attack speed to make up for it, because guess what? The helm is required on this build, and it has no attack speed. And there's no way to get attack speed on it. There's also no way to get attack speed on your shield. So it can be pretty challenging to get the attack speed on this build that you actually need. As of dictating this guide here, but yeah, that's just how it is. Death Cleaver in a lot of ways is pretty ideal. Razor's Edge would also be really solid, especially like a sick ethereal one. Even a sick like 3-socketed non-ethereal one would be pretty sick. Razor's Edge is pretty insane too. It has a lot of deadly strike, faster attack speed. And then of course there's Stone Crusher. Stone Crusher, though, you would also need a lot of sockets in it because you need the attack speed. And Stone Crusher is in a base that has a poor base attack speed. So Stone Crusher also has negative enemy res, so Stone Crusher is pretty insane. So Stone Crusher would also be pretty crazy on this build. You could also use a Grief, theoretically, if you want something that's a cheaper option than Death, but actually has attack speed. Grief isn't very strong in this mod, though. It's been probably still nerfed too much, despite being rebuffed recently. You could use a Grief, though. I mean, that's something you could definitely do. It should give you the attack speed pretty easily, because it's in a Phase Blade, so that's nice. Anyway. This isn't best in slot. You could get an F1 with 4 sockets, and that would be even more absurd. However, this allows us to hit our attack speed breakpoint by having this mini. I put in an Ohm for just more damage. I put in a faster hit recovery ED jewel for more damage. I put in another ED jewel with strength, and an attack speed ED jewel as well, and an Ohm rune, like I said. This weapon gives deadly strike and negative target defense, life per kill. This gives a lot of good things. The attack speed that you need, just like Razor's Edge would as well. It's pretty insane stuff. I traded for the base weapon, and then I corrupted it myself, and it got 4 sockets, so that's why we're using it. Death Cleaver is really good though. Even without this crazy corruption, even like a decent Death Cleaver would be pretty nice. Even like a 1-socketed one, as long as you could get attack speed in it, would be pretty good. This thing just has way more damage. This thing makes it a lot stronger, which makes it a lot stronger. Like I said, though, an F1 would be even more insane. You just have to sacrifice 1 Zod rune and you're good to go. Just like an S Stone Crusher. Ethereal in general definitely has an advantage, but if you get a 4-socket corruption and a standard one, that's pretty insane. Still pretty crazy weapon, so we'll take it, especially in hardcore where it's tough to find things that are actually really strong. So there's definitely way stronger weapons you could use for sure, but this is solid. This is very solid. All right, Fortitude. Fortitude's been rebuffed in Season 4 to the point to where it actually has a pretty strong enhanced damage. It's also going to give you increased lightning res from Mephisto. Overall, also flat DR and whatnot, and extra life. This is just a great choice, just all-around res as well. You can go Chains of Honor as well. Chains of Honor would also be a nice choice for this build. Also gives you increased damage reduction, gives you even more res and 2 skills, and gives you damage versus undead and demons, which are going to be really nice to do as well. This gives you even more damage though, so this build definitely needs damage where you can get it, so Fortitude's going to be really solid. There's other things you can use, of course, like 3 open socket and shaft stop for even more DR. You just put ED jewels all the way down. And you get almost as much damage as well with all the DR. You do need to find the res though, so the res can be challenging to find. You could also use Gladiator's Bane 3 sockets with a critical strike chance. You could use Leviathan. There's definitely a lot of things you can use. And some of those options, you know, are typically more used in Ubers and other builds as well. So it's definitely things you could do there. Enigma on an Uber Zeal Barb. You could use Enigma, I guess, for many Ubers. I wouldn't use it overall, though. I don't know if investing in an Enigma on this character is very smart. You also don't have a lot of faster cast rate, so it's going to be clunky. I just have Leap. I think it's fun. Someone just asked that in the chat. What about Enigma? Oh yeah, Last Wish. You could use Last Wish. That's another good point. Since this is an Uber killer, Last Wish is definitely viable. Especially in a Phase Blade, and it's going to be fast. But, once again, you are going to struggle for attack speed with something like that. So, there's no attack speed on Last Wish. But you can make it in the fastest base in the game. So that, you can definitely do Last Wish for sure. Last Wish would be okay. Arguably, though, Last Wish would also cause some issues. So one reason why I don't like Last Wish on this build is because in order to max out your damage, you need Amplify, which is this item, which we're going to talk about in a second. And it kind of clashes. There's a clash there. What happens is you try to cast Life Tap, and then the Life Tap and the Amp will keep overriding each other, and it's not going to be very good. I actually think Last Wish is way better against something like Declone, where Amp doesn't last very long anyway, and you're trying just to get any modicum of extra health that you can get. It's going to be better than just a tiny fraction of damage. So Last Wish does, I think, better in some other scenarios. I'm not huge on the Last Wish. You could do it, but I'm not a big fan of it on this build. Alright, anyway. Ferocity. So Ferocity is the item. This is the item that makes this build possible. There's only one other item in the game that grants Zeal to a non-paladin. That's Passion. Passion is a crap damage weapon, so you're not going to do very well with a Zeal Barbarian using Passion. The fact that they put Zeal on a helm, though, on a Zod Cham Shale new runeword, that can be put in a Barb helm with Barb skills, and an ethereal one because it has a Zod in it, so it's indestructible, is pretty cool. Of course, it also gives you your Cannot Be Frozen too, which is why you might notice we don't even have Raven Frost. We don't need it. I mean, we can put it on for the Cold Absorb temporarily for Bale or whatnot, which I'll show you guys, but you don't need it. Have the Cannot Be Frozen. My Ferocity I rolled is pretty poop, not gonna lie. I think the best thing that rolled on it was the Life Leash, which didn't roll lowest. That's it. That's all I can really say about this. The Zeal rolled lowest. The ED rolled 9 off lowest. The MDR rolled lowest. Like, everything on it rolled pretty bad. If you get a better roll than this, that's cool. I do recommend making sure that you're using a loot filter, or in your loot filter, make sure that you're checking for ethereal Barb helms with skills. Either 3 sockets or 0 sockets, because these are cool. And that is how you get the best version of this. I got one here with 2 to General Mastery and 2 to Battle Cry, which actually helps our damage quite a bit. You could get way better helms than this, I'm sure, though. Sky's the limit, you know. You could get some Battle Command on it, too. You could get Grim Ward on it. You could save some points there. There's a lot of things you could get on it, so. Yeah. That's because I had that added to my loot filter after that happened post-Limo, so that was almost like a month ago, and it's fixed. It's been fixed since then. And you get Bow. Yes. Yeah. I told him to fix all that stuff. It's good now. Yeah, this also gives us our hit recovery too, though, so it definitely helps with the hit recovery. But you have to have it, though. It grants 0 skill Zeals. Has 4 to 6 Zeal. That is how we get our Zeal. That is how we're a Zeal Barb. That's the only way it works. That's it. You need this item. That item is required on this build. There's another item that is semi-required, I would say, which is Exile. Now, Exile, this is also something that is new in Season 4. In Season 3, just recently, you could not make an Exile and a non-Paladin shield. However, would it be worth rolling another one? I don't know. It's not gonna... I mean, the rolls on it are... It kind of sucks we got, like, lowest rolls, but it's not gonna, like, make or break the item, as you can see. Not gonna matter too much. Alright, Exile is required, though. Exile, 25% chance of casting level 18 amplify damage and striking. Really, really good chance to cast amp. It really helps with the damage a ton, especially against the Uber bosses, but it helps, period. On top of the battle cry, you can break any physical immunity, and you get so much negative enemy res, it's crazy. We get almost like negative 60 enemy physical res on this build overall, which really takes them down a notch. So it really makes them a lot easier to kill, which is good stuff. Making it an F shield is still a thing though, because it repairs, so you still want it in an ethereal shield. I made it an Aegis because an Aegis is one of the non-paladin shields that gets the highest block that also has 4 sockets. So there's only going to be 3 choices for a shield that get 4 sockets in Diablo 2 that are not paladin shields. Monarch, Aegis, and Ward. Ward has lower block chance. But I believe it has slightly lower strength requirements. So that is something to balance. I think I'm good with the strength requirement because, like I said, strength also provides physical damage for a Zealer. So I'm good with putting more strength in. Whereas putting more dex in, there's diminishing returns on attack rating. So I think on this build, I think Exile and an Aegis or Aegis or Aegis or whatever it's called. Aegis. It's probably an Aegis, but whatever. I don't want to call it. It is what it is. Aegis. That's the best shield. That is the best. It's got boosted block rate, 63% block rate, which means you can hit max block with this if you put enough dex points in. One thing to note is that even though you can't wear something like Steel Shade, because once again you have to have Ferocity, you could also wear something like Twitch Throw for block rate, or Guardian Angel for not block rate, sorry, increased block chance. You can also get increased block chance corruptions as well on your items. So these are things I don't have, but that would actually help you out quite a bit. Water Walks would be block rate, not block chance, but that would help. I wouldn't wear Water Walks on this build because you want the damage. You're definitely going to want Gore Riders. Gore Riders are your only source of crushing blow. You got the Deadly Strike and you got the Open Wounds as well. They got maximum poison resist, so that's pretty cool stuff. But anyway, Exile gives you so much defense too. You might notice this is my defense without it. That's my defense with it. And then if I put on my Shout, it's literally double defense. Double defense, man. Literally halves their chance to hit me. It's crazy. So yeah, it's pretty crazy stuff. Crazy defensive power. The block rate on Exile is also incredible because it makes it to where when you block, it doesn't interrupt your attacks that much, so it's good stuff. Block rate, though, and increased block chance, though, hitting more frames definitely can help this build. If you hit at least 42% block rate instead of the 27 breakpoint like we're hitting now, that could actually help quite a bit. I didn't really talk about block rate much, but it actually does matter a little bit. And if you have more increased block rate, then you don't need as many dex points to hit maximum block. Normally you just want to put enough dex in to hit maximum block, which is based on your character level in the shield, but if you have increased block chance elsewhere, they'll be good for you for sure. So there's a lot of places you could get that from slams and whatnot, but that's basically it. You're definitely going to want an F Aegis Exile for sure. That's going to be good stuff. And no matter how it rolls will be good. Also gives you maximum cold and fire resistance, which is going to be awesome for Diablo and Bale and whatnot. It's just all going to be good stuff. No matter how you build this character, that's going to be good. It's going to make you tankier all the way around. All right, High Lords. Aegis. It's impossible, man. Yeah. Alright, so we have a High Lord's Wrath. High Lord's is giving us a lot of that deadly strike, but it's also giving us the attack speed that we need and an additional skill. It's also giving us light res that we need, especially against Uber Mephisto. Honestly, I don't really see anything else being better for this build. You could even get like way better corruptions on it than hit recovery, but the hit recovery is allowing me to hit 86 FHR pretty easily on this build. So that's kind of nice, but you can definitely get pretty crazy stuff. You can even get block rate and whatnot. Now we talked about that. All right. Now on SWAT, this is where, you know, some people might prefer Heart of the Wolverine, but that stuff dies a lot. You could go double Oath and Wisp Projector. You can definitely do that on this build and it will boost the damage, but you rely on the Heart of the Wolverine to stay alive, which doesn't happen very often, especially in the Ubers. So what I like to do is go for the plus skills for Warcries. And the best solutions for this are Grandfathers. If you want the best in slot for just pure pain, pure damage added by Battle Cry, Battle Command, best bang for all of your skills bucks, including Grimward, by the way. So you can cast from afar and whatnot. You can see that our damage is actually pretty dang insane with this. So as long as we're near that, we're good. And you might notice that this is the range of the Grimward. It's pretty insane, right? I'm all the way out here. That's the range. Anywhere in this big ass range, you get more damage. It's pretty cool. But anyway. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And that also applies to a party too. So if you're like group mapping with this character, you can definitely make that work. Anyway. So Grandfathers, 5 to Warcry. If you can get the 5 Warcry ones, that's optimal. 4 Warcry ones is better than just having 2 Hodos, but you can definitely use Hodos if that's all you got. 3 Warcries doesn't do anything over a Hodo. I'd probably rather have Hodo because it gives FCR. But that being said, these will also do damage. So Grandfathers do damage on top of this. And you can use this for pre-buff Frenzy. And the Frenzy will still apply when you're on your main hand swap. Let's see. This is no joke. So if you... This is what your 1-point Frenzy gives you. A lot of useful mobility. Even gives you more attack speed in case you're lacking it. It does a lot. So yeah, having some damage on there. Even 1-point Frenzy, as you can see, does damage as long as you have weapons that do some damage. I mean, if you're really rich, maybe use 2 Eth Grandfathers in a swap. Go to town with Frenzy too. I don't know. Do what you want. Anyway, Verdungos. I like Verdungos on this build. Vitality scales really well on a Barbarian. It's 4 life per point vitality, replenish life, FHR, and of course, our only source of physical damage reduction most of the time besides Iron Skin. Definitely recommend Dungos on this character. You could also use String of Yours, or even something with physical damage, corruption, like maybe T-Gods, but I really think that you should use this. Now, when we do the big Ubers, we're going to want T-Gods against Diablo and Mephisto. Diablo for his lightning hose and Mephisto just for his death charge bull attack that he will do tons of damage with. Now you can see I got a 1 max all corruption on it. That was very lucky. So that actually helps us with some of the other bosses as well. It's pretty nice. But overall, you're just going to want this most of the time. And then honestly, you don't need Raven Frost most of the time. You don't need it at all. So just go for Life Leech, Mana Leech, attack rating, damage. strength, life, just anything just to boost all of your survivability stats, res, um, you name it. These rings can be sky's the limit, really, but the key stats, though, are like damage, attack rating, leeches, res, life, strength, dex, whatever. All going to be really nice on these types of rings. You could go plus skill rings to pre-buff your cries as well. I'm not doing that, but you could do that. You can always pre-buff more, of course, with more plus skills, but that's a lot of effort. Could always go through that effort, though, if you really want to. You could also use BK. I mean, BK has a skill and it has life leech. I mean, there's definitely corruptions you could get on that. That would make that pretty strong. You could go Nature's Peace, which the maximum all res on it is pretty awesome. Can definitely make you even tankier against some of these Uber bosses. So Nature's Peace would be good too. And you could get Oak Sage with Nature's Peace. So you could definitely use Nature's Peace. And then, of course, for the Ubers themselves, Ravenfrost and Dwarf Stars are also very nice, which we will be swapping out to show you guys how that works as well. And I don't know. That's probably about it. Yeah, you could even use like Carrying Wind if you wanted to. I mean, it's not a very good choice. You could use Wisp Projector, especially if you're using the Oath approach, making the double Oath approach, make the Wisp as powerful as possible. The Heart of Wolverine. And Soul Drainer. I'll be able to get that to you after. We're actually making a guide right now, sir. I'll be able to get it to you in a bit. Is it an expensive build? Well, I'm going over it right now. I'll post it on YouTube if you missed any of this guide. You can kind of see how expensive it is for yourself. Not all these items are insane. Matter of fact, this one's pretty much not even a... This is a null corruption item for Ubers. This doesn't do anything. This gives me enough. This helps a little bit against Lilith and against Mephisto for that corruption. That's about it. Some of these items practically don't even have a corruption, so it's... I mean, this is pretty nice, but there's still better things than that. That is just enhanced defense. So defense is nice on this build in general, especially with the Defiance Aura and the Shout. But you would rather have like maybe attack speed corruption or block rate or block percent chance of increased chance of blocking corruption. There's better corruptions on this as well. This does have maximum negative enemy physical res though, and gives us dual leech, so that's nice. I think that negative enemy physical res stat is so huge, it's crazy. But you could also use Laying of Hands, which will also be very effective against the Ubers, which are demons. And Laying of Hands will also do very well here. It also gives you more attack speed. If you're lacking attack speed on the rest of your build, feel free to use Laying of Hands. Especially with certain corruptions, Laying of Hands can actually be very nice. But yeah. Anyway, Laying of Hands is very good. I'd probably only use like Laying of Hands, Soul Drainers, or Steel Rend on this build. Steel Rend would be pretty good too, but the negative enemy or physical res, like I said, is such a good stat, so it's kind of hard to pass up. Especially when it gives you more leech on top of it. Alright, that's pretty much the core of the build. The rest of it, it kind of depends on what you need. So, if you're lacking res from Mephisto, we'll explain this before we fight like the big Ubers, but you're going to need res, you're going to need damage, attack rating, life, maybe FHR, and a combination of all those stats. So it's just kind of what you got. And of course an Annie and a Torch if you already have them. Those are going to boost your stats quite considerably. There's definitely ways to get your res up though, while sacrificing some damage without having an Annie or a Torch. You just need more res charms. And then of course we're going to be swapping out these things to make the Ubers even easier. Alright, that's it. That's it. This is a pretty complicated build, so I had to go over quite a bit there. But hopefully you guys will understand what are the best ways to do this. There are a lot of options. I kind of went over all of them. This build does require some items, absolutely, including an item with a Zod or a Cham. So this is not a build you can just start out with. This is more of a build that you work towards as you gather currency or throughout the season, and you can trade for stuff for it, or you just find the currency yourself. So yeah, I'm not even done. I'm not done. I just got done with the gear portion and everything. Now let's go over how to farm keys on this build. So this build is primarily, once again, geared towards the Ubers. If you want to gear them towards mapping, feel free to use other items. But you'll be good to go. As you can see, I swapped to my grandfather's. You proc that frenzy. We're going for Blood Raven, so you follow one of these paths here. Blood Raven always drops a T key. If you don't know, in PD2, you have a 100% key drop chance. I think organs are like 45% drop chance now. They played with the drop rate again in Season 4, and I don't 100% remember the last patch. I think it's 45%. So farming the organs is a little tougher, but not so much the keys. Alright. So yeah, if you want to sustain your speed, just kill a monster here and there. It lasts for 15 seconds without killing anything, so that's kind of nice. That movement speed boost.
My army will destroy.
Blam, blam, blam. There you go. So all I did there is boost my way there. Make sure to cast Battle Cry where you have your plus skills. In my case, it's my grandfather's swap. That will maximize the negative physical damage reduction. Of course, you could even cast Rimward, but honestly, that boss is so easy, especially with Battle Cry and Amp provided by Exile, that she just goes down too fast to bother. Go check out the other key bosses, though. You're also going to want to do Blood Witch the Wild for the H key. This one's also very accessible with this build. The other T key, which is the Countess, is very inaccessible with this build. It takes way longer to get to her. The other H key, the Summoner, is way harder to get to as well. So yeah. And I do know how to read the map, so from the entrance here, it's always to the west. It's like a west-facing tile. It's like to the left. From the waypoint, of course, it's to the east. It's the opposite, which is going down east. And then from this entrance, it's also some left-facing tile. So it's going to be to the left here, or up here to the left, or down there and to the left. It's going to be one of them, something like that. And I'm just going to farm it. Good stuff. Easy. Alright, so watch. You can cast Battle Cry. Proc the Amp on him. You can even switch back to your grandfather's, cast the Rimward for even more damage for fun. And there you go, there's the other key. So with the power of Frenzy, you can even put more points into Frenzy, by the way, if you want more faster run walk for faster key farming. That is an option. I don't know if it's really the best investment of points, but you can do it. It's not overall. It's nice though. See, if there's ever any obstacles, I can just also leap over them. I don't have to kill them. Rimward for fun. Alright, here we go. Alright. Now for Nullifok, when you're farming the D key, this is the easiest one to get to. Izual is a little tougher because you don't always know where the Plains of Despair is, and it's probably more dangerous as well for this build. But anyway, there's 3 configurations in the Halls of Pain. This is one of them. It's all the way into the east corner there. It's all just straight down, so it's pretty much where it is. It's pretty much straight down. It's always in the same spot. If you get the pillars in the middle, it's all the way into the west, the exit there. And if your waypoint starts up there, then it's like in the middle up there. Pretty cool stuff. You could just memorize them if you don't already know. I know I went over that pretty fast, but you know, the other places. If you check out my Zeal guide from Season 2, I go over, I think, a bit more in detail. Of course, you also have these 2 as well. So, in order to find Nullifok, you need 2 paintings. You need 1 eye painting here, and you need 1 eye painting on the adjacent wall. So they have to make kind of like an L shape, a 90-degree angle. There's no painting here, there's a painting there. No painting on this wall. There's a painting there. There's a painting there. There's a painting there. And there's a painting here. It's kind of hard to see because it doesn't have the eyes and whatnot. It's kind of obscured by the skulls and whatnot. But there's no painting here. There's a painting a little bit farther up, but it has to be like directly adjacent. I see here and here. That is where Nilithlock is. No problem. And it is time to farm him. So Nilithlock's a bit of a pain, but we have battle cries, so we can destroy any physical immune enemy. What? I just jump directly in here. Life leech extremely fast. You don't really have to worry about the damage at all.
Hello.
Easiest farm of our life. Yeah, it is because they get double damage from it. I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a lot of bases you could use for a beast. This is actually kind of interesting to go over. So we actually had a question from the chat about why is it in an F Berserker Axe? Well, one, you want an ethereal because it doesn't break. Nothing on that mercenary breaks even if it's ethereal. But two, you want it in a Berserker Axe because Berserker Axe is a one-hander. One-handed weapons get their damage doubled on an Act 5 mercenary. So their damage is doubled. So if you use a two-hander, like let's say a decapitator, you might get like 700 to 750 max damage, roughly 200. But with the beast, I'm getting like 260 something to like 800 damage. That's just an Act 5 mercenary mechanic. It's pretty cool. So that's a reason why F Berserker Axe is the choice. It is the hardest base to get though. You could also use like F Glorious Axe and F Decapitator and other stuff as well. So there's definitely other options that are at least decent. If not, it's just they're perfectly fine. You perfectly use it. Does that show on the damage screen directly? Yes.
Put that to good use.
It does. It does show.
I'll put that to good
Actually, that's kind of weird.
to good use.
Why did the damage go down? Huh. I have no idea. I think it has to remain on there when you join the game or something. I don't know. And Axe is best in slot. I think it's Berserker Axe. Etten Axe is a little slower, but then again, it could get a little bit higher damage, so it depends, Norman, for sure. Etten Axe would be fine too, though. There's a lot of choices. I think people put way too much emphasis on the base. As long as it's like ethereal and it's a high damage elite axe, it's probably gonna be fun. As long as like the rest of your items fit in with the attack speed breakpoints and whatnot. All right. Anyway. Well, that's it for the mini key demos and also for showing you guys kind of how to farm the keys. It's pretty easy to farm those 3 keys on this character. That's how you get each of these keys. You need one of each to make each of the portals for the mini Ubers. Now, the mini Ubers are a little tougher, but not really. We've, of course, farmed up tons of keys already, so it's going to be pretty easy to show here. So for these, you know, you could definitely pre-buff a little bit more. Remember to bow where your plus skills are, just like where you use your Grimoire and your Battle Cry and everything, including Frenzy, except for Zeal, which is what you want to do in your main hand, and also when you want most of your defensive power. So when you're actually attacking, use this.
I can already tell that I'll be your best friend in this forsaken camp.
Ligma Glass. Thank you so much for the follow. Welcome to Cold Xander Thursday. Okay, here we go. So, we have 14,000 attack rating. It's pretty good. We can have more. We will have more if I get the other one. So, in order to look for Duriel, he could be anywhere on PD2. No predictable spawns. I think only on Old Battle.net is it predictable. I don't remember, you know, I did this a lot in D2R, and I don't even remember if it's predictable, but it is. Anyway, just use the Frenzy to get around. Oh, look, we found him. Okay. So, want him to get a little closer to the monsters here. Make sure to proc that Battle Cry on swap. you can see, the Mercenary is a beast. He's definitely taking it. Get that Grimoire out to give us even more damage. And we have 19,000 attack rating with the Grimoire as well. So some serious damage for sure. He's going down pretty fast. Now, one thing you could do against Duriel, because he has Holy Freeze, he actually eats up your attack speed quite a bit. You can actually boost it back up by swapping the Frenzy. For 15 seconds, you have almost max attack speed frame, even with Holy Freeze. Now, this is something that a Zeal Paladin can't do, unless you have a ton of attack speed. So that's actually kind of cool. So I can just like boost my attack speed back up. And it's not too dangerous because I have 30,000 defense. So one thing to notice, because I have so much defense, he only has a 24% chance to hit me, and that's before block comes into account, so he doesn't hit me very often. So if I'm on my block, I could even block, but even without it, he doesn't hit me very often. I made my death in an axe, even though I'm only using Wraith now. Nice. Now he has a 45% chance of dropping a Bale's Eye. You need 3 organs. It doesn't matter what they are on PD2. You don't need one of each. It could be any 3 organs to make a Pandemonium Talisman in combination with a key. We didn't get lucky there. So rip. It's okay. We killed him. That's all that matters. Yeah. Alright. Next up, we have the easy one, Isual. Isual is one of the more dangerous ones, though. His damage is pretty insane. Oh, no wonder why that was so bad. Okay, so I actually made an oopsie here, so don't do this. This is something that's almost killed me before, too, against Mephisto. I wasn't wearing my High Lords, so I didn't even have some of my attack speed or even some of my Deadly Strike there. That definitely slowed us down a little bit. That would explain why he didn't go down a little bit faster. Oops. Well, you know, I've made that mistake I don't know how many times. It's pretty easy to make. Well, that just whomps. Explain why our damage was kind of shit. Alright, there you go. I mean, this goes to show you that you don't even need High Lords and you can do it, right? So maybe that shows you guys on YouTube that you don't need the craziest items and you can just make it work. Do you need Ferocity and Exile? Alright. Keep in mind, though, that if you have 75 attack speed with a Berserker Axe, though, and you have the level 9 Fanaticism on my Merc, I'm actually hitting the max attack speed frame, so I don't have to pre-buff it with Frenzy under any condition. But you can see he goes down really fast when we actually have our items. So yeah, easy mode. And no brain! So he drops the brain, 45% chance. I guess we're not getting lucky right now. Can I get one of the organs? Well, when they feel like dropping the organs, they will. And of course, this is the most dangerous one. Recommend always just rebo before you get into it. Enchant next to your Mercenary, so he gets it as well. How much leech do I got? 16%. It's something I went over in the beginning. This is a guide that will be posted on YouTube. You guys want to know how to make the quintessential build of Season 4, the build made possible by Season 4, the Zeal Barbarian. We'll check it out soon. Alright, so this area is pretty dangerous. Don't recommend running around with your 2 swords everywhere in here because there's all kinds of dangerous monsters. There'll be like 50,000 witches waiting around the corner. Lancers. It's just dangerous. You can pre-buff your movement speed when you can, of course, though. That looks like what we're looking for, actually. That looks like what we're looking for. That looks like Lilith. Alright, so there's Uber Lilith. Duriel and Izual. Izual probably has the hardest like single hit. Duriel freezes you, so he's mostly just annoying to kill, but he also does a decent amount of damage. And Lilith does the most amount of damage, just period, but not from like a single hit necessarily, like a crit. She doesn't crit quite as hard, but she does a ton of poison damage. So make sure you have your max poison res, or even overcapped with my Go Riders of max poison res. It's always nice. Alright. One thing to make sure you do is make sure that you kill all the Vile Witches so you're not killing her amped, because that's very dangerous. It's not fun, period. Alright. Oh my god. Terrible. I messed it up. I was getting greedy. So normally I don't actually try to do that, but I was actually trying to get the Grimoire down just to show you guys how fast that... Instead, she's just walloping the Mercenary. Okay, cool. That's better. So yeah. Good shit. A maxed out battle cry is doing work, like she is just getting chunked. Okay. So guys, when we get Bale or the last Uber down to about half, I want you guys to join the game. Post in the chat when I can. No Horn either. Well, those are the 3 fights. That's how you get the organs. We've gotten luckier before this, but you know, sometimes you just don't get that lucky. All good stuff. Anyway, not much of a problem once you get going.
Afternoon.
And if you can get that Grimoire down, of course you can get that additional damage as well. So it's very good stuff. Now for the big Ubers, keeping the Mercenary alive can be challenging, so don't rely on him 100%. If you position him in a way, though, to where he's not being attacked by, or he's positioned away from where the Uber is attacking, so in the opposite direction, you can keep him alive in a lot of cases. But it can be tough, especially when you're trying to draw them out, so it's not something to really guarantee there. But we killed the mini Ubers, so that's good. Pretty good to go on that front. Pretty good to go on that front. That's how you do it. Let's get that max battle cry on him, get that Grimoire if possible. Just smash him down with Zeal. And now what we're gonna do is kill the big ones. So this kind of confirms my point what I was making earlier. These 3 organs here, they're all from Izzy. You don't need any particular organs. You can make this Pandemonium Talisman, which is what allows you to create, to be teleported into Uber Tristram on PD2. You can create this with any 3 organs. Doesn't matter. There could be 3 brains. Bam. There you go. They have to be 3 of an organ, though. Doesn't matter what it is. On vanilla, you have to have 1 of each, so it's a bit different. Pretty standard stuff. Alright, so you need 1 Pandemonium Talisman. And for the big Ubers, I'm going to swap out some of my charms because we don't need them. We're going to want to use the res up in here, so we're going to want to boost our res pretty massively. As you can see, our res is looking really nice. It's going to be especially good for Mephisto and for Bale. When you fight the big Ubers, do not allow yourself to get lower res at the same time that you get Conviction by Mephisto, unless your res are absolutely absurd, because you will get destroyed. They will stack and you'll have no res and you will die. This is why you have to separate the Ubers, but there's other reasons too. They're very strong in PD2. Especially when you don't have as crazy of a battle orders in vanilla. The Ubers, even the standard Ubers, are definitely a bit tougher on PD2. And you can't go back for potions either, so you gotta make sure that any potions you want you take with you. And any items you want to help pre-buff or to swap out that you take with you. So we have all those. We're good. We're jamming. Alright. So depending on your build, You want different amounts of like full juice and regular potions. What I like to do is just make sure you put all your full juice in the cube. And then you'll be it. Jamming. Easy. It kind of depends on what you're doing, but I've noticed with my current build that I do pretty well if I have like this many or maybe even 4 less full juice and just like normal health pots. And then of course I can use the normal health pots to prevent the using of jubes so I don't actually drain all my jubes. You can just buy as many of these as you want. These you have to find out in the wild or you have to cube them with normal ones, so it's a bit tougher. Alright. Should be pretty good to go. I think we didn't leave anything in here that we need. No. Of course. Or curse immunity. Curse immunity. It's kind of iconic to go through all the mini Ubers before the big fight. Right. Unfortunately, it didn't drop us any more organs, but that's okay because we already farmed up a whole bunch before this, so it's good to go. They didn't have to give us nothing. Keys are guaranteed at least. Easy bud. And yes, you can sell the keys. People don't usually buy organs. You can either sell the keys or, you know, maybe you can sell these if you want. But most people that can get the keys will farm up their own organs and then use these to farm up a torch. Now from the big Ubers, I think each Uber currently has a 10% chance of dropping one of these. Black Soulstone. Also, once you kill all the Ubers, they drop one of these per player in the game upon the death, which means that if people join your game, even if they can't enter the Uber portal, which they can, after you've gone in there, you know, after you've right-clicked the Pandemonium Talisman, you will get a standard of heroes per person in the game. That's kind of interesting. I kind of consider that a little bit of an exploit because it should be for all the people that are in the Uber area, but I don't know how important that is. It's kind of weird. I think we'll actually show that. We'll try to demonstrate that. If you can get people from the chat to join the game, that'd be pretty awesome. I'll try to remember that as we get bailed down to half health or whatnot. All right. Are we ready to go? I think we're ready to go. So, big Ubers. All right. Now, for the big Ubers in general, we're just going to go, we're going to right-click this sucker, and we get teleported directly in there. So that's all we do. So once we're in here, you can't, by the way, pre-buff anything before you enter this area. You could get a shrine though. Shrines do persist, which is kind of strange. At least it did when I did that last time, so I don't know. Get your war cries all pre-buffed. Good to go. Make sure you get that on, and then make sure you're wearing T-Gods so you kill Mephisto. We're going to try to kill Mephisto first. That's usually the way to go. One thing to mention is that we had to right-click the Pandemonium Talisman near that blood fountain in there in Act 5. That's the only way to teleport yourself in this area. You might also notice there's no way back into town. If you die, even on the softcore, you are dead and you cannot re-enter this area. So you just lose your Pandemonium Talisman for free. Hardcore, of course, you also lose your character, which is where we're playing on here. So, it's pretty rough stuff. Just keep that in mind, and you will have a good time. Also, just check your res again and make sure you didn't make any mistakes. Make sure you're at least 50 capped over on all your res for Mephisto. So that'd be 135 light res in our case, to maintain the 85 light res, and then 130 cold res and 130 fire res. We are good. We're even good for Bale. Lower res is even more intense than the Conviction. Bale's lower res is insane. Lowers your res even more than that. So theoretically, you could cap your res upwards of 70 cap, maybe 75, and then maybe even 80 to maintain these res if you want against Bale, but it requires an insane amount of res. It's going to hurt or damage, so I didn't do that here. Alright. Anyway, stop screwing around. We did use the Demon Limb to cast Enchant for that bonus AR and damage from the fire damage. Always nice to have that trusty Demon Limb with you. And then these will be more important against Diablo and Bale. T-Gods, Fortitude at maximum light res, and everything else is going to be really instrumental here for killing minions. Serio. Can we draw out Mephisto? Nice, we can't draw out Mephisto. Okay, that's what we want. We want big bad Mephisto. Why? Because he's the one that will convict us, and he's the one that moves the fastest, so he's the easiest one to get. Okay, try to get him off the mercenary if you can. Oh my god. Attack me, damn it. Okay, good. Alright, we got the Grimward up. We're good. And then just use a health potion. If he hits you that hard, make sure to start running up a normal health potion. Use Juves on your mercenary as you watch his health at the same time. And wow, that's a really clean fight. And he goes down. He didn't drop us a black soulstone. He has a 10% chance of doing that. He did not. That was even cleaner than our previous fights I've had earlier. And the reason that was because we got the Grimward down before we even messed with him. We got to kill one of his minions. We drew him out. Made sure to cast Battle Cry on him. And then, of course, you just started wailing on him. We got the amp on him as well with this and just hit him with like 8,000 max damage, and he was dying very fast. Notice that was pretty safe, too. He could crit. I mean, he could definitely like hit you for like 1,000 in one hit, but as long as you have your maximum light res and you're taking care of it in that regard, even with the Conviction Aura, you will still have maximum light res. And you can check that if you want to on the character screen when you're fighting him. It's pretty cool. Alright, anyway, we did use some Juves, though, to keep the Mercenary alive. He was taking damage, particularly from the minions, but for a moment there, Mephisto was also attacking him directly. Try to get Mephisto off of him, because Mephisto could one-tap him in some cases, especially if his res isn't stacked. I try to get a lot of res on him, but it's not as stacked as maybe you'd want it to be. His light res is still almost... His light res is 76, even with Conviction on him, though, so he's not going to usually get one-tapped like that. Stacking his res, maybe giving him some sort of damage reduction is going to be better. And like I've mentioned before, there's better ways to get items on him. So, keeping him alive is a bit more challenging when it comes to maybe Diablo. You got to position him very well, otherwise he just gets wrecked. So, we'll see if we actually do this properly here. If not, well, he's going to get wrecked, and the fight will take longer. We'll lose the Fanaticism Aura and the Might Aura, but we can still do it with relative ease, as we will demo here in case he dies. If he dies, well, that's okay. Not the end of the world. Alright, you can see, though, we just got lower res. That's not good. That's from Bale, so Bale just lower resed us there. Let's see if we can get Bale to teleport over the wall. That'd be nice. Hey Bale, come over here, buddy. So depending on which one we can fight here, I'm going to change out some elements of my gear here to make it a bit easier. You might remember from the Season 2 video I did on the Zeal where I used Hellmouth Gauntlets against Diablo. Well, guess what? Their Fire Sword is gone. So we're not using those anymore. We're still going to be using Soul Drainers.
My brothers will not have died in vain.
Okay, so this is what's going to kill the Mercenary. The problem here is that he's lower resed, and he's very likely to die in this scenario. Wait, did we actually get Bale to teleport to us? Oh, okay. Alright, so if we kill Bale, this isn't going to be too much of a problem here. Forgot to put my Highlords back on. So Bale, Cold Absorb is really nice because he has some nasty cold damage. So you might notice there. We could get Grimoire from that monster that just died there. You still have 75 cold res, which is pretty good. Like I said, you could stack it more for Bale if you really want to, but Bale's not as dangerous as Mephisto. If you start losing light res against Mephisto, it can be fatal, like, super easily. Is this clone baited? I don't know. He seems to be taking regular damage. It could be clone baited. Alright, remember to watch your mercenary's health so that you can get maximum damage on him. I don't know if a mercenary's gonna die this time. I might keep him alive. Let's see. Alright, I think you just gotta kill him. Battlecry lasts an extremely long time at this very high level, especially when I cast with the grandfather, so that's good to go. And Black Soulstone. Nope. Alright, so that was the real one though. He went down. Trying to get Bale to teleport or Diablo to run to you by running around on the outside is the key there. Mephisto will come to you like automatically. He'll just run at you. That's just part of his programming. He will just run at you. That's why it's easiest to get Mephisto. Now against Diablo, I want more MDR and I want Fire Sword. So we're going to use a Dwarf Star of some kind. And he also does a lot of lightning damage, but this one Maxroll res also means I get more fire resistance. So I'm at 80 resistance as well. And I have Lightning Sword for his hose. So it's not just Mephisto you want that for, potentially. And that Fire Sword is not nearly as good as Hellmouth Gauntlets was, but, you know, it's still going to work pretty well. Ah, shit. Oh, shit. I was using the wrong ability. Okay, and there he is. He's dead. So let's show a fight without the Mercenary. Alright, he's down. He's dead. He's toast. Alright, well. Rip. As you can see, though, we can still get a pretty solid amount of damage. I have 6,200 damage here from a Grimoire made out of one of his minions. So that's pretty good. And we can remake the Grimoire. We got the battle cry on him with the grandfathers. Good shit. If your life starts to dip, definitely make sure to use a regular health potion to make sure your health returns. If it gets really low, use those juice. I don't like my life going below half on Uber fights. And in hardcore, I definitely don't chance it for sure. It'll end more than just your Uber fight for sure. No problem. Alright, renewed there the Grimoire. When he spawns monsters, it's actually good because I can leech off of his monsters more effectively than I can leech off of Declone. And that's because Declone still has, even with all this negative res, he has a lot of physical resistance. So, whereas his other dudes don't have nearly as much. Alright, so I'm using Juice here, but that's only because I've run out of the other potions. You could definitely just go back and just fill it up if you want, doesn't matter. Alright. And jump right back in. I don't know if you should always do that, though. You could actually be attacked while you're jumping. So while you leap, it's open. So yeah, even without the Mercenary, he's still going down. He would have been dead already, though, if I still had the Mercenary, but Diablo kills him very easily, so when you're trying to position him on the opposite side of him, it can get him. Especially if Bale also gets lower res on him, he's just finished. Also, I think I lost my Demon Limit pre-buff, so I lost some of my attack rating, but that's okay. Let's go! Wakey Cougar launched a Xana attack. No Black Soul Stones that time. But pretty easy stuff. We got our torch. We got our standard of heroes. And then I forgot again. I actually did. I forgot to I forgot to have the people come in to give me more standard of heroes. You know, I'm always so involved in the fight and talking and explaining other things that I just forget, man. It happens. Well, anyway, just suffice it to say that if you have more people that join your game, you will get 1 standard of heroes. And yes, there's a bug where if you exit the red portal, it will boost you out. Before you kill the last boss, if you have more people enter the game, you will get a standard of heroes per them. And those standard of heroes boost maps, so they're actually quite valuable. I'm good at forgetting it, though, and even though I'm a streamer and I can, potentially have people just come in just for the fun of it. If you have a lot of friends or whatnot, just definitely make sure to remember to do that, and you're good. Hey, Leaky, hope you had a great stream, man. We rated him yesterday on his Zeal Paladin. He is a beastly Zeal Paladin. What's up, man? Hope you had a beastly stream. We're making a Zeal Barb guide right now. We just killed the big Ubers with the Zeal Barb, and it was good fun. Now, note that the Mercenary could die a lot sooner in the fight, and then you're going to end up chewing up a lot more Jews. We actually didn't end up chewing up many Jews at all in that fight. But that's mostly because Mercenary survived for most of the fight, and we did a pretty good job managing our Jews and whatnot in general. Sometimes it depends. You could use a lot of Jews, you could use a little bit of Jews. If you do well, you don't have to use that many of these Jews here, but it's always good stuff. Really? Find anything cool, man? Alright, anyway, so that's it. That's the Zeal Barbarian. That's how to get the keys, the mini Ubers, the everything else. We went over all the stats, the skills, and the gear. Of course, remember to check the timestamps below in the description and the first pinned comment. We will I'll put timestamps for you guys so that you guys can easily access part of it if you guys want to know his gear. Want to learn whatever, anything, just want to see the fight, whatever you want to do. Good stuff. Definitely some small bloopers here, but nothing too major. Honestly, went pretty smooth stuff. I'm trying to show a lot of stuff, just trying to explain a lot of stuff at the same time, but it's good stuff indeed. Anyway. With all that, remember you guys can always check out any of my PD2 guides or D2R guides on YouTube and my different sections. I have different sections for them. And then you could also check out d2.maxroll.gg for any of those written guides, of course, for any of those awesome D2R builds. We make lots of guides. We have a lot of other content. We do it all in Diablo 2, from testing, data collection, we kill everything. We use every build, we use every character, we use every class. Always doing something weird up in here. When I saw the opportunity to make a Zeal Barb in Season 4, I took it. He's a beast, and when I saw how tanky he was, I was like, dang, this would be pretty reliable for hardcore, and it'd be pretty solid, and it is. It's a very reliable build. So, with that, remember you can always catch me at twitch.tv/darkhumility for 6 to 7 days a week of Diablo action of all kinds, PD2, D2R, and vanilla. Remember, of course, we're going to be going hard on the D2R ladder when the season drops. For the first ladder drops, we'll be going hard on hardcore, getting a 99 sorceress with the group. We'll have teams and everything. It should be fun. That's the plan anyway. And we'll smash it, man. We'll all smash it. It's gonna be good stuff. We'll probably be testing the PTR before that as well for the patch changes, for the 2.4 changes. That's going to be a lot of fun. But anyways, love you guys. Dark Humility. Over and out. See you guys next time. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and my other guides and want to see more. Get more. Always more. Diablo 2. Best game ever made. See you guys next time. Peace. Let's get it. Have fun. Zeal Barb. OP.